Hello, and thank you for joining me on another episode of the Tech Exec Podcast, where I help you create teams worth leading because life is too short to lead mediocre teams. As always, I'm your host, Aviv Ben-Yosef, coach and consultant to tech execs worldwide. And today, we're continuing the series I started last time, and our subject is going to be vision. If you missed the previous episode, I'm now starting this short series where I'm sharing the self-assessment I do with most of my new clients, which is having them rate themselves on 8 different traits from 1 to 10. 1 is your worst in the world at this, 10 is your best. The first episode last week was about how you can ensure that you have accountability, and today we're going to be talking about vision, the second of the 8 traits. Now, vision is the vaguest probably to describe here because vision is not something that we can clearly state most of the times. Do I have it or do I not? When I ask people, they sometimes need some help to even tell whether they have good vision or not. So here are a few questions that you can use to assess between you and yourself how good your vision is when it comes to how you view your team. First, when we're talking about vision, my question usually is when you look at your team and you think about what you'd like to achieve within the next 6 to 18 months, do you have a clear direction that's not just a bunch of features, a bunch of tasks? Do you have some guiding principles? And this should tell you a lot. If you're thinking about the future and all you can think of is the list of to-do items you've got, you don't have a vision, you're just following along a plan, not looking into the long term. Another question for you would be, if you had to write down your strategy, what would that be? And I know strategy is a big, scary word, but this is actually what strategy is all about. A key component to any real strategy is having the vision. Where do we want to get? And not where do we want to get as in, success and have a bunch of money and whatever. No, real vision is about what sort of problem we'd like to solve, where it would be situated in the market, and what are our guiding principles to get there. I have a video about the fact that you have to move upstream as an executive if you don't just want to be a glorified manager. And it will probably be linked somewhere on screen if you're watching this on YouTube or in the show notes. However, when we're talking about moving upstream, when we're talking about possessing this vision, it's all actually very simple to start. Ask yourself, if you now had the ability to move things along 3 months to get an answer about something, what would you do? Would it just be about simple things like, will we get the tasks done on time? Or do you have some real experiments that you are in the process of validating? Do you have any market knowledge that you wish you knew so you would tailor your entire strategy around because you'll know something that is going to change in a year? That's the sort of stuff that should be taken into consideration when you work on your vision. Vision, even though it's very vague, it's very critical because, as the old proverb says, if you don't know where you're going, no wind is a good wind. And in the next installment of this series, we'll talk about how we translate our vision into how we help our team be more effective, how we instill purpose. But now let's remain within your head. I'm not even talking about whether you can make others understand what your vision is all about. I just want you to have one. So if you don't know what your vision ought to be, we can start in a few ways. First of all, yes, there's the moving upstream video I talked about you can check out. You can check out my book, The Tech Executive Operating System, that has a chapter dedicated to moving upstream. But for the purpose of this video, let's boil this down to a few actionable things you can do right now to get a better vision. First, understand what the company's strategy is about or help form it. You are an executive. You have not just the responsibility, but also the ability to be there in the room, see what the discussions are, be an active part of that discussion so you really grasp what the company is trying to achieve and how. That will help you understand where the company is headed, what it would like to achieve, how we're going to get there. And from that, you will understand what your organization should be capable of doing in the next 6, 12, 18 months. Having that in mind, by no means says that you will never have to change that plan. Vision is not about understanding where we want to go and committing that to a notion, strategy, document, and being all done. That's not as simple as that, unfortunately. Whereas plans will always change, planning is everything. You have to have this planning. You have to have this vision so that when questions come up, when the decisions have to be made, you will have that vision as a guiding principle to help you stay the right course. Or if you know where you're heading and something happens that really jeopardizes whether that goal is achievable, or you notice that there's a different goal that might be better, if you have a vision and you constantly refer back to it and use that to understand where you ought to be headed, that will mean that you are less likely to be disrupted and not notice it till it's too late. It means that you will likely notice opportunities earlier, and in general, it just means that your team will be able to operate more effectively. Having something as simple as a vision for the next 12 months can make a huge difference. And I've seen it with so many companies where the executive team sat down to decide about their strategy. And what do you know, less than a year later, they have achieved stellar results, working much faster than they did in the past, solely because they sat down and as an executive team worked together to form this vision. Now, either you have to become aware of it if it already exists in the company and you're just out of the picture, or you have the responsibility of creating it, of forming it, especially so if you're a co-founder, but not necessarily. The one thing you need to take away from this episode is decide between you and yourself that you will know what the vision is. You will possess a good vision that will help you make decisions. It's not something that you will think about every minute, but it should be something that helps you guide your decisions and the risks you're taking, etc., a few times a week. And if you don't have that, you cannot rank yourself highly enough in the vision part of this assessment. Think about, do you have it? And if not, make a plan to get that vision and make it something more concrete. Again, it will change. It's not going to be perfect. I'll actually say that if you're aiming for it to be perfect, you're doing it wrong. But still, possessing one is what will make such a huge difference on you, on your organization, and on the company's chances of success. That's it for this episode. Thank you for joining me. As always, if you haven't checked out my newsletter, it's the best newsletter online for tech execs. The link is in the show notes. And as always, if you have any questions or comments, or if you want someone to help you with your vision and the rest of the things we're going to cover in this series, my email is in the show notes. Let's talk. Till next time, ciao.